Hey guys, good evening. Welcome back to the Muddy Creek Podcast. Sorry to keep you waiting, but Jimmy is so worth the wait. Jimmy comes to us from Missouri. He has a YouTube and a TikTok page, Jimmy's Cryptid Quest, and he's coming with us with some research and some stories, and he's full of knowledge, and we're just going to have a really good time just talking Bigfoot tonight. Last weekend we talked Dogman and looked at Pat's incredible footage. Jimmy, I don't know if you believe in Dogman, but if you want to see some incredible footage, hit me up after the show. I'll send you some. Actually, our moderator, Blue Eyed Northern, she really cleans somebody's clock with some good video evidence out there. Let me just go through the chat right quick and acknowledge everybody. Thank you for hanging on and waiting for us. Gary Spikes, appreciate you. Sharon Denise, Blue Eyed Northern, our mod, the mother of the greatest Dogman thermal I've ever seen. Patrick Noble, how you doing, buddy? We got William Robinson, Rusty, aka Rusty, Carl. Carl is a crazy Cajun, so there's no telling what he might throw out there in the question. But we love them. You know, you feed us straight, are going to hang around. Let's see, we got Robin in the house. Let's see, I saw Diane in there. We got Diane. Love you, Diane. Appreciate you being a great mod. And we got Jean in the house. Think so far that is it. We got Chad, the Oddcast podcast. You need to check that one out. Good people. Also want to say happy birthday, Erica, if you're out there. Happy birthday, beautiful. Let's see. Verax. And I know I slaughtered that name, but you know I'm a little bit southern there, so I just put my own twist to it. That was the chat comedian tonight telling us jokes. Waiting for Jimmy to make his appearance. Don may make an appearance from the hospital bed. Like I said, I did not know he was in the hospital. He's been in the hospital since I think Tuesday. And I'm like, Don, why didn't you call me and tell me you're in the hospital? But you know, I'm so mean to him. I guess he needed a break from me. So, but y'all keep Don in your prayers. And if I missed anyone, I am so sorry, Catherine. I always see you there like a ray of sunshine. I appreciate you being there. And so I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us tonight. And like I said, we got Jimmy. Jimmy has been a little of everywhere. He's got a lot of stories from Oklahoma. He just got, he gets a lot of information sent his way. But it's going to be a laid back conversation. We're just going to let it flow. And we're just going to let, Wyatt, how you doing? I'm glad you're here, buddy. We're just going to let it flow. And Jimmy, Wyatt said Jimmy is a cool dude. Oh, that's wrong one. Hang on. Hey, Daniel. Wait, I got to put it up there. There you go. There you go. There's your first one. It says Wyatt is a cool dude, or Jimmy is a cool dude. So
yeah, I know Wyatt. He's a pretty cool dude too.
He's part of the Muddy Creek family, and so are you now. We got Greg in the house from
Awesome.
South Carolina. And Wyatt, thank you. I'm doing good. I'm doing better than John or Don, but Don said he's got some really hot nurses around him, so I don't feel sorry for him anymore. So there's that. So yeah, I don't feel sorry for him. He's like, well, nurses are kind of hot. And I'm like, yeah, you put yourself in a hospital, buddy. So Jimmy, where were you raised, and what got you interested into this subject?
Well, I was let me see if these are working again. Can you say something real quick?
Hello.
Oh, well. Yeah, for some reason my audio's just not working correctly. I don't know what's going on, but anyways, I can kind of hear you through the phone here. But I was born and raised in Wichita Falls, Texas, actually. that's like a north central Texas, not too far from the Red River. And I'm the son of a pastor, or a retired pastor. He's retired now, but yep, I was born and raised there. I was homeschooled. So in my life, like the Bible was part of my curriculum. So a lot of things that are considered kind of weird or strange or different or whatever wasn't looked down on as much, because both me and my parents, we are young Earth creationists. I know that rubs a lot of people the wrong way and everything, but I mean it's what it's what we get from reading the Bible. But yeah, so things like dinosaurs and stuff like that, I've always viewed as like a contemporary thing with man. So it's not a far leap from things like Bigfoot and stuff. Um, Whenever I was a little kid, I wanted to be a cryptozoologist and look for Mokullambimbi, the alleged apatosaurus that they claim lived in the Congo, which who knows? Maybe it's still there. Maybe it's not. But Bigfoot's the next best thing. Bigfoot's a little bit more mysterious, though, honestly. Um, but yeah, the whole thing that got me started into Bigfoot, though, is I've always been kind of open-minded about things like Bigfoot. I used to think he was just a giant ape out in the woods, an undiscovered ape. But now I know that he's not that at all. He's very much human, or at least half human, according to the DNA studies, if you believe those studies or not. But yeah.
Well, I'm okay with the biblical approach to that because I was raised with 5 Pentecostal preachers in my family, so I don't. There's a place for everything, and as you believe there's a biblical presence to you, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you believe there's a biblical presence or a place in the biblically for Bigfoot. Some people, the Nephilians, some people believe it's tribal, and it's okay for us to have different opinions about things. I have started leaning toward the biblical aspect because the more I grow spiritually, the more I had to stop and look at certain factors that I don't have all the answers, and it's a learning process. And until we're open-minded enough to have those conversations, that we're always going to be you have to have open conversations to learn. Can you hear me? Do I need to yell at you like I'm married to you?
I can hear you. Okay. I don't know why it's so low. It's usually not this low on my phone. I don't know why it's low like that. And for some reason, I just can't get any kind of Bluetooth thing to work real well. I had it playing on my car radio, but for some reason it doesn't want to do that very often.
Okay.
But yeah, I can hear what you're saying there. Concerning like Nephilim kind of stuff. I've done a lot of research into that. Now, from what I believe about them, I think that I think a lot of people get the Nephilim thing kind of confused, and it's understandable because the Nephilim, from what I've read, and I could be wrong, were actually the fallen angels. The Gibborim, which were the combination of the fallen angels with human women. That's what their offspring was the Gibborim. Gibborim means mighty men, and all through the Bible we see some really interesting things with these mighty men. For instance, David, he had mighty men, Gibborim, that fought with him that were part of his inner circle of warriors, as well as the lion-headed men of Moab, which is an interesting thing because you talk about like Dog Man and stuff. Maybe there's Lion Man kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you look at the some of the different angels, like the cherub, or some people pronounce it cherub, but like the cherub, they had four faces. They had the face of an ox, a man, an eagle, and a lion. And it could be that some of these beings that rebelled against God and decided to take human wives, maybe that intermingling um, created different kinds of beings like that. But you also have things like Gilgamesh. He had a friend named Enkidu, and Enkidu was a wild man of the field that was covered in hair, but he also had antlers, which was kind of an interesting thing. But he was covered in hair, and him and Gilgamesh and Enkidu actually went to war with a guy that was like a protector of the woods that was covered in hair as well. So I think that there have been since almost the very beginning, there have been these giant kind of wild men that live in the forest. But I kind of wonder if there's something else to that, because you also have the violent giants that had plagued the North American continent for a long while. Um, like the Paiute, they killed a bunch of them, but there was also a lot of other Native American tribes that band together and drove out and killed a bunch of these very violent giants. They didn't want to kill them; they wanted to live in peace with them, but drove them out. And I'm thinking maybe there's something to that concerning, like maybe Bigfoot is along this, a long a line of descendants of those guys, and they just adapted. I have no idea.
What do you think that would be what people mean when they say hybrid? That they believe Bigfoot's a hybrid? Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people that believe that they're hybrid. I think they're hybrid. The DNA shows, because I've talked to Melba Ketchum before, and the DNA shows that the mitochondrial DNA comes from a human female from that had Middle Eastern and uh, uh, Native American origins, and the nuclear DNA, which would be the where the Y chromosome comes from, that had unknown origin. And I'm trying to read what that says. It's real tiny on my
Yeah,
phone.
Diane says, Jimmy, that theory has been brought up before that they're descendants of these giants. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, so you always kind of had an open mind for them. When did you really start kind of grinding and wanting? Did you have an experience, or was it just what being open minded
Well,
as a child? And
well, it was several years back. My dad wanted to do a camping trip, and he had heard about Bigfoot being in the Kiamichi Mountains down in southeast Oklahoma. And he was like, pick out a spot. We're going to see if we can find Bigfoot down there. So I picked out a spot. It
cool.
wasn't too far from Tanya's Bigfoot museum she has over there in Tallahena, Oklahoma. And we didn't find anything. There was no signs of life at all. No bugs, no birds, no nothing. And so that night that we camped out there wasn't anything that went on. Then I went to we decided to go to Tanya's museum, Tanya Kordick, her museum there in Tallahena, and we talked to her, and we looked around and everything, because I was still of the idea that it's just a giant ape of some sort, the Gigantopithecus, one of those Gigantopithecus. And she let me in on some information about her experience, other people's experience, and she also was setting up a conference, her first ever Bigfoot conference there in for Tallahena. And so later on, I think it was in May of that year, about 3 or 4 years ago, we went to the conference, and it was pretty amazing. She had like a lot of academic kind of people there, people with PhDs, people who were anthropologists, people who were psychologists and biologists and stuff like that, as well as cryptozoologists and investigators. And she, that conference convinced me that it's something other than an ape. And I kind of grew a closer relationship with her and a lot of the people in that area. And she told me of a place, and I started going to that area. And I've had almost every single time I'm out there, it's like Area 51 or something for Oklahoma. I mean, it almost every time I've been out there, there's something strange that happens. I've had bluff charges happen, and I didn't see what in the world it was, because as soon as I turned around, there's nothing there, which was really weird for me. Um, I've seen I've seen an actual Bigfoot out there. Um, there's this sound I recorded. I call it the Wahoo sound, and I don't. I'm sure you have the video and audio there of it. And about an hour after the Wahoo sound happened, me and my dad were out there, and it came from this area where another guy had a lot of contact with the Bigfoot. Came from that camping area, and an hour later, we hear something walking in the woods on the other side of us. And so we ran out there with our flashlights, and that's whenever I saw him. And he was about 6.5, 7 foot tall, dark brown, greasy hair all over him. Didn't have a conical head, had a round head, and but a really wide back. I mean, just huge, wide, muscular back. And he was, I saw him for about 4 or 5 seconds before I decided to put down my light and take out my phone. Then I'm like fiddling with trying to open it and trying to get to the phone app, or the camera app, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And by the time I got it up there, I'd already lost sight of him. And with each step he took, he was covering quite a bit of distance. I'd say probably about 4 feet every step he took, 3 or 4 feet. And he wasn't like running away though, but he was walking pretty quickly, I would say. Because he was kind of like kicking up leaves and stuff as he's going.
Like kicking the
But
back,
huh?
like kicking the leaves back when you walk.
Yeah, kind of kicking him up as he's going. Um, but yeah, he was it was really strange, because like I don't know if he went down on all fours to kind of hide or something. It didn't sound like like a four-legged thing. Whenever if he did, whenever I couldn't see him. But he was we had quite a bit of brush, about chest level brush, uh, over where I was able to see him. And whenever I saw him, I only saw from about the small of the back up, up above his head. Um, but he was probably about 20 or 30 feet away.
Oh,
Um,
that's Gary said, Jimmy. I'll read it when it pops up when we get a
okay.
break. But Gary said Jimmy needs to go to Brown Springs with us. Um, but do you think that the Bigfoot let you intentionally see it, or do you think you called it off guard?
I think they kind of well, I think the Wahoo sound that we heard, which was kind of interesting, that it was literally like some giant person going Wahoo, and there wasn't anybody around us for 3 or 4 miles at least, that night, because I had checked earlier, to see if there was anybody in the area, and there was nobody, and there was no way like somebody could have snuck up on us, if they were traveling down a road or something, that they could have snuck up on us that way to try and scare us or whatever, um, because there's only one road in or out of that area, and the only other way they could have came through there is we would have seen a flashlight and we would have heard them moving through the brush, but we didn't. um I do think it intentionally let us see it, because I think that they are pretty good at being real stealthy. um they just they know the forest, they live in the forest, they know that area, they live in that area. um but the Wahoo thing was all about them react, or seeing how we would react to them, I think. Uh, and that came from one side, and we waited and waited, for any other sounds, and never heard anything other than whenever his stomping or I say stomping in the woods, whenever his walking in the woods. And
Was this was the Wahoo the audio that you sent me? Because I have the audio that I can play. I just don't have the video, but they can actually go to your YouTube and your TikTok and see exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, I have a couple of different things in there. One of the files in that drive is the Wahoo. The other is the is another is a from another expedition I did with a friend of mine, Brian Terrell of Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations. But there's one where it's very clearly something going Wahoo. I think I have it titled as Wahoo on there. But yeah, that one, yeah, that night it was strange, because we after I tried to get them on film and everything, and lost track of them, I said, "Hey, hold on a minute. We got some food back here if you want some." And I did hear a pause in the footsteps, but then it continued on, and I don't know. I don't know what to think about them as far as their stealthiness goes. Yeah, that's my YouTube right there. Um, you know, I'm really torn between thinking either it's they just have natural camouflage and blend in with their environment really well, and them having some sort of predator, cloaking ability or something,
Yeah. Well, I
because
mean,
I
it's
mean,
okay to have that the woo attached to it. It really is,
yeah,
because you there's something going on with that. I used to be
yeah,
just like really hardcore flesh and blood, but I realized the more I listen to people and the more experiences I hear, most of what we know, unless you're an eyewitness, are guessing games, or theories. And it's okay to bounce them around, but we can't present them as fact. But when you hear over and over and over people say they were there 1 minute and they just kind of disappeared or blended into the surroundings, there's something to that. Now, have
yeah.
you experienced that part of it, or
Well, I mean, like I said with that, whenever I lost sight of them, I mean, you know, we didn't have the best flashlights. They were just, dollar store flashlights that we had. And he was, 20 or 30 feet away. But I almost feel like he was more like 15 feet away, honestly, because I got a real good look at him. I mean, I could tell his hair was kind of oily and greasy, like he hadn't showered in a long time. Of course, I guess they don't shower, but and I could see the definition of muscle and everything on his back. Um, but yeah, it's a strange deal because before the woo or before the wahoo sound happened, something was telling me in the back of my mind, something's about to happen. So me and my dad were sitting there was talking about space and God and the universe and everything. And all of a sudden I was like, hold on a second, hold on. Because something was telling me that, or not telling me, but I had this feeling like something was going to happen. And so I tried to get them to stop talking. And then the wahoo sound happened. And that's really strange. For me, that's people talk about mind speak, but I don't know if I really believe in mind speak. But something gave me an urgency to listen in, on something that was about to happen. Maybe it's just maybe I could hear something and my brain just didn't register it, a whole lot at first. Maybe it was something that was, my subconscious was identifying as, something, and that
Yeah.
made me do it. I don't know. It's a strange deal.
Ashley, I have two quick questions.
Hmm.
Gary wants to know what part of the state you're in. You're in Missouri now, but this took place in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, yeah. It took place in southeast Oklahoma, in the Kiamichi Wichita mountain area. Now, whenever I say Wichita Mountain, I'm not talking about the Wichita Mountains over in southern central Oklahoma, but like it's there's it's spelled uh Itcha. It's a weird spelling of the mountain range, but it's in that and in the Kiamichi kind of area. The closest place I could really give you is there's Winding Stair. Is the closest place I can give you. Um, that's kind of like the general area of where that's at. Now, there's places all over there though that seem to be a hotbed of Bigfoot activity. Tons of sightings. Um, Bigfoot, Dogman, or as I like to call him, Wolfman, because I don't. Whenever I think of a dogman, I think of like an anthropomorphic poodle or something,
Look, I call it a canine cryptid. I have a Diane says, Jimmy, take this as a compliment, but you look a lot like Jack Black. I'm a fan of
Oh
his.
my gosh, I get that all the time.
I was just trying to figure that out. And then, if I'm saying your name wrong, just put a thumbs down. Virac says, Jimmy, after hearing these eerie vocalizations and feeling the presence you describe, what is the first thing you do to reset your mindset when you head back into the woods the next time? That's a good question. Did
Well,
you get it?
here's the thing: is it's kind of weird because I'm not easily spooked by these things. I mean, yeah, at first, whenever you hear something really strange and wild sounding like this stuff, it kind of gets your adrenaline pumping a little. Just kind of get you like, oh boy, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Um, but there's not a whole lot that really makes me second guess whether I should interact with this stuff or not, because honestly they seem to be pretty much peaceful. um if that's what they're talking about on there. I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, how do you just kind of regroup and keep doing it? Now, you kind of smiled when Gary mentioned Brown Springs. Now, you've got experiences in that area of the world, and you have actually, when people have activity and they call you, you will jump right on it to get right in the middle of it. Let's go into your desire to be in the hot spots and the experiences that you have had as a result of people reaching out to you, Jimmy, this is what's going on, and I need a second opinion, or actually you've had people that have backed out of the area and you went into the area. You want to go
Yeah,
into some? Yeah.
there's some guys from a Bigfoot group, um, and I don't know I don't know if they'd want me mentioning this because, but basically they there's these two guys, both of them kind of skeptical in the group. One likes to basically he does a lot of like drone flying and kind of scouting out areas and stuff like that. And the other guy was a hunter, just a regular hunter. And they decided to go out to this one area where there had been a sighting, and this area is actually an area that a few other Bigfoot groups go to. And it's a place I didn't know about. A lot of people are very secretive about their areas that they like to
Yeah.
go to, and for good reason. The reasons being that there could be some hoaxer going out there that can plant false evidence and everything, and also just people going out there basically knocking on trees and hollering and uh, interrupting an investigation, basically making it to where it's harder to investigate or driving a thing out because some of these people, they want to shoot and kill one, to provide a body and all that. Um, and I don't know if I don't know if I can say those words on YouTube. Sorry if that's
Hey, you know what? I'm not monetized, and you say
okay.
what you want to. That's how we just let it
All right,
roll. Trust me, I
but
speak my mouth all the time, and I'm gonna keep on doing that because I live in a free country, brother. But go ahead.
but yeah. So there's this one time I was camping where I usually camp. And these guys I know, we knew each other because of a mutual UFO encounter we had. But I'll get into that here in a little bit. Um,
You just threw that like, no, wait, okay,
well,
we'll
well,
circle back to that, sir.
yeah, I'll tell you about that here in a few. But yeah, we these guys called me, and they were both pretty urgent sounding. And they said, these things have us surround us here. They're hollering at us. They're throwing stones at us, and they're driving us out of this place. And this was at night. And there's like, we're, we're getting out of here. So I was like, okay, well, send me a location because I want to check it out. And so, so they did that, and I came out there, and I didn't see or hear anything that night. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of a dud of an area, it seems like. So I uh I decided to head out of there, and they called me the next morning. I was like, so what'd you experience? I was like, there wasn't anything out there. I went to that location, and it was like, well, you're supposed to go a quarter mile down this trail. I was like, oh, okay. Well, now that makes sense because I was kind of debating on whether I should go down this road because it was pretty overgrown, and there were like logs that were almost in the way. It looks like somebody had drug the log back out of the way, to try to get up there. And so uh I let's see, when was that? Yeah, that night I went and camped in that location, and I did hear some sounds. I heard some really strange sounds out there. ones that I wasn't able to get on camera, because I had a lot of people messaging me and calling me and everything during the whole time, because they knew I was out there and they knew where I was, and they were wanting me to try this and to try that and all this stuff. And I I I did have, like, I did hear some whoops coming from down in this valley, because this place, there's like this valley, and then there's like this kind of halfway up the valley, there's this little ridge kind of camping spot, and then further up is this mountain, which a lot of these places I go to are like that. Um, and I did hear some whoops and stuff going on. I did get some rocks. I got 4 rocks thrown up from the valley to where I was. But it wasn't anything where they were trying to hit me or damage anything I had. And this only happened at about 4 a.m. whenever I was starting to leave, because I had to be at work, which was 4 hours away in the morning, at like 10 in the morning. So I was starting to pack up at about 4 a.m. and they tossed, I had 4 rocks tossed my way. And that's about it for activity in that area at that time. Later on, me and Brian Terrell had recorded some fantastic sounds. One was there was a bunch of coyotes that were yipping and yapping, and at 6 a, this is around 6 a.m. and it's still dark because it's October, and then at one part you hear this kind of like the Ohio howl. And hey, there's Don.
There's Don. I told him
to okay.
That's a hardcore co-host right there, ain't
it? Yeah. They turned off the Wi-Fi.
They're trying to keep you down, buddy.
It took me a while to figure out what was going on. How you doing, Jimmy?
Doing good, doing good.
Hey, Ms. V.
Hey, buddy.
See,
so
I back-talked. The story is I back-talked Miss V, and now I'm in the hospital.
I told them how mean I was to you. They were scared to call me. So you're getting out. Look, everybody's excited to see Don. I don't know why. Hey, Don. Hey, Don. Hey, Don. Couldn't even call his co-host to tell him where. Listen, I'm glad you're okay, Don. That's hardcore, buddy. That is hardcore. You're like, you got so many Vicky points on that. Well, so we were talking about
interrupt you, Jimmy.
What?
All right.
What?
Yeah. What
I said I didn't mean to interrupt him, so he can continue.
Well, we were talking about rock throwing. I was going to ask Jimmy, what do you think the rock throwing's about? Do you think the rock throwing is because they're tricksters, or do you think that they throw the rocks because they want you out the area, or they're trying to divert you?
I think it's just them saying, get on, get out of here, something where they were just encouraging me to leave, kind of like how you'd do with a dog or something, a mean dog, or some sort of a mean animal that you don't want in your area. You throw rocks towards it to try and get it to scoot on out of there. I think it's the same basic idea there, is that they were doing that.
What were you going to say, Grumpy? You were nodding your head.
No, I agree. I agree with everything Jimmy's saying there. I think they do everything they can without revealing who they are or what they are. Branch breaks, rock throwing, animal sounds. I agree with everything he's saying there.
I do have a question. Because Jimmy, your passion for boots on the ground investigation really stands out. I agree. How do you balance personal intuition and field experience with evidence-based mythology when researching Bigfoot? That
Well,
was a mouthful.
yeah, that's a great question.
That is.
Basically, I want to know what something is, and whenever it comes to doing these investigations, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't have anything tying me down. I don't have, a family to feed or anything like that. So I do have the free time to go out there and do that kind of stuff. Um, and I try to keep an open mind, but I don't keep it so open it falls out the back of my head. I
Yeah.
like to I like to be open minded, but I need to I like to try and really just gather data if I can, and just see what happens, because I've come to the realization that these are a type of people, and if they're a type of people, that means that they are more than likely gonna not be just some sort of vicious kind of thing. So I'm not too worried about getting into trouble with them. um I've never had a whole lot of trouble with them before. uh like I said, those rocks being thrown and a bluff charge that may have been from one, uh I still don't know what that was from. Could have been from a cougar in the area that I just didn't see, because there are black cougars in that area. I've seen those before, going across the
Do
road and stuff.
do you
But
think they
yeah, there's just hmm?
do you think they want anything to do with us?
um well, from what I know, according to Native American people I've spoken to, about 200 years ago, they did that they were trading and interacting with tribal people for a long time. But about 200 years ago, they cut it off, and that was about whenever. Well, it's a little more than 200 years ago, but they cut off ties because the Native American folks learned how to use guns, and that they saw what guns could do, and that they, from what I know, they felt like it was an unfair advantage over them, and so that's whenever they decided to cut ties with people in general. It was something that they couldn't compete with, something that they were kind of afraid of. That's what I've been told. I don't
And
think
we
that they want a whole lot
yeah,
to do
and
with people. Hmm?
we
And
I
every
was gonna
time
say,
you move in that nightgown, I think you're going to flash us. But go ahead.
uh, I was gonna say, and we came here and destroyed their environment.
Yeah,
Well,
and we continue to do that too.
you
Yeah,
pointed out
it's
I'm sorry. Well, you pointed out a good point. I've always said that not all cryptids, whether it be the canine cryptid we call dogman or Bigfoot, not all of them are vocal in their areas. Sometimes you don't have vocals, and when you look at someone that say they have land and they hunt on that land and they're constantly on the land. You have hunting clubs, you have, friends that meet out. And a lot of people that farm land hunt on the same land. And so when you're looking at the power of a firearm and you're looking at, the ability to take large prey down with a firearm, in my area that I like to go where my background picture was taken, we don't get a lot of vocals. We'll get knocks, and it took me a while to figure out that it could be a cryptid doing that, but it's because there's a history of them going into the swamps and hunting something down that was killing animals and sucking the blood out of them. So they learn over time if they want to cohabitate in that area with people with guns and rednecks that like to hunt everything, to stay silent. Do you have an opinion? Either one of you have an opinion on that? That's just my 2 cents. Sorry.
Yeah, I think basically they don't want to have anything to. Well, I say don't want to have anything to do with us. They like some of us. With me, I try to make myself as least threatening as possible. Which is why I wear goofy shirts. I wear Hawaiian shirts and stuff whenever I go out there. I wear
Cool.
Hawaiian shirts all the time, anyways. But you know, if they see somebody with camo on and all this kind of tactical gear and stuff, you know, they're used to seeing those people being the people out there hunting and that have, you know, shot some of their people. You know, so that's I think they see those people as a threat and either stay away from them or they you know, try to scare them out of an area. You know, I want to interact with them. I want to be their friend, basically. You know, I would like to have a relationship like that with them.
Well, Gary says, Jimmy, they try to talk to you, but you're not hearing them. Let's see. Western Ohio says Hawaiian shirt, redneck camo. I told you the chat was priceless. Don, I'm gonna give it to you for a minute since I'll be right back. But you take it away, Don. I'll be right back.
Well, I was going to say that once I saw one of the creatures, you know, their attention was drawn to me, and now I'm now a threat to them. But what I noticed was if they see me talk to any of my neighbors, those neighbors get harassed. Even though we're not talking about a Bigfoot, they just see me talking. I think they assume that we all talk to each other like a tribe. So because I knew and I saw one, they assume all my neighbors now know that they're out there. And what has happened is my neighbors are now getting harassed, or they're getting sightings, they're having encounters. I've had more encounters in the area I live in the past 5 years than the previous 25 years, because they think everyone knows that they're out there. So
yeah,
I know, and you're right about they. I was going to say you're right about going out in camo. They know what you're going out to the woods for. You know, whether you're bird watching, fishing, hunting, they watch all the entrances and exits of the woods, and they can see you coming, and they know what you're going to do. And I used to say, you know, not that they can read your minds, but they anticipate what you're going to do, you know, just by your actions and behavior.
Yeah, I believe they can, you know, kind of read people, you know, because they watch people. They watch people, and we don't know that they're watching us because they blend in really well. You know, they stay hidden and just kind of watch for us to see if we're gonna be coming in there to hunt or to. I think basically whenever I think they don't understand what camping is. They don't understand what it is that we're doing when we're camping. I think that they think that we're probably going from one town and you know, resting at an area and on our way to another town, because they don't have camping. You know, they probably have some migration that they do, but they don't realize that we like to just go out there and experience the wilderness and everything. I think they think that we go from like one town and then we we come there and rest or something on our way to another town. But they do know that we like to hunt. You know, they've seen that. In fact, I think the reason why we can't catch them on trail cams is because they understand that whenever we put this weird box thing on a tree and we set a bunch of corn or apples or whatever in front of it, that deer and other wildlife come up there, eat the stuff, and then we come back later and hunt those deer or other animals, and they see that and they kind of connect dots of, this thing lets them know, lets the people know that there's a thing out here. They kind of understand that it's something that we use to see with, I think. And also maybe they see infrared light. I don't know for certain. I can see like the glow of the infrared lights and stuff, but I don't see it real bright like a camera does.
Jimmy, what
But
do you think?
that's the reason why we don't see them on trail cams very often.
Well, what do you think when you have them that are living on the land with a hunter or a farmer? Do you think they study them?
Yeah, I think they study them some, but they mostly probably want to stay out of their way and just take whatever it is that they have left over, from their harvests and everything. That's what I think they probably do. That's what I would do if I was one, is I would just kind of hang back and keep track of they whenever they're harvesting stuff, so I can go in there and glean from the fields. Or if they have cattle, I'd look through what they have left over that they're getting rid of or throwing out, or if something dies, or if they have any chickens that I can steal, or eggs I can steal. I would do that. But
How about
Yeah, and how to take those chickens and eggs. Sorry.
huh
You're fine,
What's
Don.
that,
I
Alan?
was gonna say they watch how to take those chickens and eggs without leaving a trace too.
Yep.
How to get in and get out without you even knowing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. In behavior, they definitely study our behaviors.
I guess the ex-law enforcement in me would think that they would want to study the character of the man or woman with a gun and what their temperament would be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you said, I asked you when you had your sighting, do you believe that it allowed you to see it? And how long was it watching you before it decided to show itself? Because the reality is you believe it allowed you to see it.
Yeah, I think they were just spying on us and kind of seeing what we're made of, really. I mean, and me and my dad, we didn't go, oh my gosh, I did go, woo, that's a new kind of sound there. That was about it for my reaction, audibly and everything. And I was still sitting in my seat and we're just sitting there, listening to see if anything else was going to happen.
Yeah, I had
but I do got
a kid up here in Maine. I was going to say, I had a kid up here in Maine who would go hunting. He would walk through a cornfield, and on the side of the cornfield would be 3 Sasquatch that would just sit there in full view and watch him walk with his shotgun. And they let him go hunting, and he'd walk home, and he never bothered them. But he also never bothered them. He would see them there, but he would just continue doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
So, they get to know people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I
Sorry,
feel like
Jim.
I've
I'm going to delay.
I feel like I formed a little bit of a connection with them out there at that place, but it's been a long time since I've been out there. Just stuff going on with work, and my vehicle kind of having troubles and stuff. I'd like to investigate areas closer to home. but allegedly there's some just 10 miles south of where I work. But I've never seen any trace of them. I've been camping out around this area, hadn't heard anything from them, haven't seen any kind of signs of their presence at all around here. But people have said that they seen them and heard them and all kinds of stuff. So
Do you have
I
a
ain't seen
lot
'em.
of deer around you?
Oh yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have a lot of
Especially
deer?
I work in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and we got a lot of deer around this area. They're all over the town. The deer are. They're all over in the woods too. But I just I haven't seen a Bigfoot. I've seen some black cats. Like panthers. I've seen those twice in this area. Um, but other than that, I mean, I just hadn't had a whole lot of experience in these areas. Even whenever I was on this one lady's property, um, who who has had them. She's seen footprints. Her son just a few days ago, back whenever we had a bunch of storms, he saw one out there. Um, but I've yet to see one, even on that property, and that property is really a prime location for that kind of thing too. Very remote area, right by a lake. There's these little kind of
Do you do
cave kind of
any
things
calls,
carved into the
Jimmy?
cliff. hmm
Do you do any calls?
No, I've not had a whole lot of luck with calls or tree knocks or anything like that. I know of some people in Oklahoma that have an actual call device that they've used that call in that kind of stuff, and I've thought about getting one of those, seeing if I can get a hold of one of
Like one of those
those.
I
wildlife
think
boxes where you do the coyotes and the injured rabbits and
Well,
I
I
think
don't know
they would
what the call.
they would
Huh?
I think they would respect and accept you more if you did the calls yourself.
Yeah, I've I've
I
I've
could
never had.
I could send you some.
Yeah,
I could
if you
send you
can
some.
send me some, I'll study them and I'll try them out sometime. But I've never had any real good um, responses with doing a whoop or what I call a
do you think
location
that's a turn
call.
off?
Uh,
Do you think that's a turn off for them when people make the vocals?
I don't know. I mean, it's how would you think if somebody was like making weird sounds in the woods?
I'd throw rocks at
Yeah, exactly.
them. Well,
I mean,
well, I mean, I'm not really, I don't have a lot of social graces. So, someone wants to know if you ever went to the K Trail.
to the what now?
Someone asked, hey, Michael, thanks for jumping in. The Western Ohio Bigfoot Research says, Jimmy, did you ever go out to the K Trail?
Yes, yes. It's the K Trail is about, I'd say, 45 or around 40 miles, 30 or 40 miles south of where I usually go. Um, and it's interesting. And I'm guessing he's talking about Area X, which there's multiple Area X's out there. I've been out to that area before. And it's an interesting area. That whole area is just a very very squatchy area. It's a
Let's
hotbed of activity.
well, let's just skip to let's go to straight to the punchline. Has there ever been an experience you've had that you have just could not get out the area fast enough that you felt threatened or you were just felt like you were just invading their space and what happened, and give us all the juicy details, sir.
Well, there's never been a place I've been, that scared of or anything, or where I felt super threatened. I do got to say that me and my friend Gabriel, uh, he's Argentinian, Gabriel Graciano. Uh, he he had this truck, and he had this as a black truck that had he outfitted it to where he had these floodlights, infrared floodlights, and cameras going around. And me and him went out to the area I go to, and he wanted to test this out. He was like he had never been out doing anything like this before, so he was really had his adrenaline pumping. But we set up the thing because he had it in like this a black tote, kind of like I don't know what it's called, but it's basically like a container, black container. And we took all the stuff out and we set it up on top of his truck, and we sat out there at the place I usually go to for a long while, several hours. He had these things that could black out the windows, these like blinds to black out the windows, and he had a TV, and we were watching these cameras. He didn't want to set up the audio because he was just too freaked out about about being out there and everything. And to me, it's nothing. I go out there by myself quite often doing this kind of stuff. Um, and I've never really felt super in danger or anything until this night, honestly, that we were out there. So me and Gabriel, we're out there, we're testing this equipment he has. Nothing happens. It's so dead out there. There's wasn't even any wind blowing or anything. And it was just really just, I mean, it was a dud, it seemed like. But he wanted to try driving down the one road that goes in and out of this place, only using that screen that had the cameras that were looking out there. So we're we're driving down this. He's driving down this road, and he's looking at the screen, and it's such a weird feeling because it's almost like a video game or something. Because you can see from like up above a little bit, from the top of where the truck is, you can kind of see down and everything, and you can see all around. And so we're driving down the road, and I'm creeping him out too because he's like, "Oh man, are we going the right way?" And I'm like, "Well, there's only one way in and out of this area, and if we go the other way, then we'd be going off of a cliff, and we could have done that, and this could be purgatory." He's like, "Oh, Jimmy, don't say that." So I'm messing with him and everything. But we get out to the end of the road that goes onto the highway, and then I tell him, I think there's a place up the road some where we'll have enough light from a street light to take all this stuff down, because I rode in to the area with him. And so we go out to this one area, we're taking down all the stuff, and we're driving back, and there's a crossroads, there's a highway that intersects with another one. And these aren't like real busy highways or anything. This is kind of like, Podunk, Oklahoma area. But the area is real beautiful. And we get up to this stop sign, and we see over just barely clearing the trees, coming out from the area we were in, these lights. And we thought that they were like a law enforcement drug patrol helicopter at first, because they would, if you're law enforcement and you see these guys driving around with their lights off only and everything down the road, you're gonna be wondering about what's going on. And so we thought at first it was a helicopter, but the lights were in a circle around, and they were twinkling kind of. It's kind of a weird weird way to describe it, but they were an amber color twinkling lights, and it was about the same diameter as the road it was starting to come out over. And this thing was barely clearing the treetops. And we were there just sitting there looking at it, and then all of a sudden, and I'd noticed a truck that had seen this too, but because it came down the road. I guess it had seen it. I'd only assume because it was right above this truck that we'd seen come up there, and this light, and the truck had already went on after this, or before this part happened, but there was a light in the center of it that started to shine and we almost thought it was a spotlight or something, but it wasn't, and it was just this real bright light that the whole body of the craft lit up as one solid single light, and it was kind of saucer shaped, kind of like that, and the whole thing lit up, and then just poof, it's just gone, just in the blink of an eye, nothing there. And I was like, Gabriel,
no sound at all.
We just saw a UFO. and come to find out, that night, another Bigfoot group had seen the same UFO in the same location, but several hours earlier. They had seen it at about the same time that me and my friend were out there doing our investigation. So this thing had been over us for a long while, almost probably the entire time we were out there. This thing had been kind of hovering there in just, not but like, a mile down the road from where we were. It was just hovering there, I guess. Could have been even closer, the whole time we were doing that investigation. We never caught it on camera, though, which bugs me so much whenever I don't catch cool things on camera. And that night, after we got back into town, because we'd parked at Tanya's museum there in Talahina. After we got back in there, I came back out to the area where the UFO was to camp out, and it's like 4 a.m, and because I was tired and I needed to get some rest. But man, that was creepy for me, camping out at that place where we'd just seen that UFO in an area where we've seen, all this Bigfoot activity. That creeped me out there.
I think Don has had
yeah, maybe they were just researching also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have no idea, what who owned the craft or anything, if it was us or, some other, kind of being or something,
But it seemed like it wanted you to see it.
Maybe this other Bigfoot group, they had seen the same UFO at about, I think their sighting was about 9:30 at night. They reported it to a MUFON lady, MUFON investigator in that area.
Do you feel like you had time loss?
No, I don't think I had any time loss. I mean, the time seemed, correct and everything. It's just such a strange thing seeing that kind of stuff. But yeah, these other people, they'd seen the underside of it with the lights and everything the same night, and I never knew any, about this group seeing anything or any at all, but because like that night, or actually that morning, the night after this all happened, I texted my friend Tanya, and I was like, "Hey, we just saw a UFO. This was wild." And she texted me back and said, "It's funny you mentioned that, because these other guys had seen the exact same thing that night." And I was like,
Any,
wow, that's crazy.
Are there any large bodies of water or a large river in that area?
Oh yeah, there's the Kiamichi River. Or no, there's the well, I'll say the Kiamichi River. There are some creeks and stuff. I gotta be careful about what bodies of water I say are around there, because I don't want people going over there and contaminating the site and everything with possible hoaxes and stuff. But there are several bodies of water. In fact, the place where the UFO was coming out of, there's like a little church that I don't know if the church is abandoned or not, but it's like one of those little tiny picturesque kind of churches. And across the highway is like a graveyard where some of my distant relatives are actually buried. Didn't know that until way later. And there's this body of water that's right beside that. It's kind of strange. It doesn't make sense why it's there. It looks like a man-made pond, but it was right over that body of water whenever we had seen that. I mean, it was over that and barely clearing the treetops up there. So I mean, that it was probably the best UFO I've ever seen. I've seen a few. I've seen the Aurora stealth plane whenever I lived in Texas. I saw that go over where I was, and I've seen some other weird kind of things. Oh, over here where I live now, in the Ozarks, I see a lot of the just a ball of light kind of thing that's in the sky that moves around and stuff, that isn't a plane and isn't a satellite, because I know how to identify that stuff.
Did you have
I lived
activity
by.
that night?
Huh?
Did you say you had activity that night? You seen the UFO?
Just the UFO. Didn't have any Bigfoot activity. It was really strange. It seems like I've went to another place that my friend Brian Terrell calls Xanadu. Calls this place Xanadu where he goes, and I've been out there with him before. And we recorded some great sounds. That's where I've recorded the Ohio howl sort of sound that I got, as well as some what I call location sounds, where I think they do this kind of whoop, whoop. It's not really a whoop, it's like a whoop kind of thing that I think that they try to locate each other with
Yeah.
out there, as well as that
Yeah.
Ohio howl sort of sound. And I've seen the ball of light kind of stuff in that area. And the part of Texas I'm from is Wichita Falls, which is north central Texas. I saw that question there.
There you go. We got to answer Tammy's question. That's my girl. Now, Don, you've seen like the lights come out of an object and then go back into one, right? Like you saw. You've seen that, haven't you?
Yes.
Well, speak up and let them know.
Yeah, I've seen
You're taking those
light.
Jello shots in that hospital gown. Every time you move, I think we're going to get flashed.
No, I've seen. Yeah, I saw a little tiny blinking light in the sky, and I pointed a flashlight at it with a strobe, and it disappeared. And then all of a sudden, a huge triangle appeared next to me in the sky. And then right in the middle of the triangle, another point of light started, and it just kept getting brighter and brighter and brighter till it like blew out and then just dropped out of the sky. And then everything just disappeared after that. It was strange. It was really strange.
So,
because it reacted to my flashlight.
Don, you see some weird stuff up in your part of the country. So you're in Missouri
Yeah,
now. What's going on in Missouri?
Not a whole lot, honestly. From my experience, not a whole lot. I am part of a group up here. It's called OBRO, Ozark Bigfoot Research Organization, And we haven't been doing a whole lot here lately. But we did have a really interesting little investigation in Holiday Island, which is not too far from where I live. And, Holiday Island, if you know the area, you wouldn't think that there would be any kind of Bigfoot in that area because it's a little retirement community. But there is a wooded area where a lot of people have heard some weird stuff going on. I've recorded some tree knocks coming from that area, and me and my group did go out to this one little area, and we lifted some tracks because and that was pretty amazing. They were like 14-inch long tracks. It wasn't real good detail because it's like a bunch of like kind of mulch kind of stuff out there, but they were good enough to where we could lift some tracks out from there. Then in the Holiday Island area, there's been a few sightings and stuff and from people that don't even believe in Bigfoot have told me of some things they've seen from that one little area there in Holiday Island, which I think is pretty interesting. There's got to be something going on. Somehow they're going to that area, and I think they're just somehow coming from a place called Butler's Hollow, which is in Arkansas. Holiday Island is in Arkansas. It's just right there on the border. But I think they're coming from a place called Butler's Hollow to that area. Why, I don't know.
They can pretty much go anywhere. If anyone wants to look up on Google, look up a city called Brockton. It's where I grew up in Massachusetts. And when I was in 7th grade was the first time I ever heard of a local encounter. And look up Brockton on a map. And this creature was in Brockton. Now, people that don't believe in it would never believe in it, but people who do believe in them can see that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But they can go up in some.
There's a place that's east of Oklahoma City called Stinchcombe. It's a little it is a little wildlife preserve sort of thing, almost like a park or something. And there's been a lot of sightings there, and it's and it's just right outside the city limits pretty much. Over here, over in Oklahoma, or not Oklahoma, but in Southwest Missouri, Table Rock Lake has a lot of activity going on around it. I've never seen anything, but I've been to some of these places that some of the people have reported seeing things, and I mean, there could be something living out there. We just have no idea.
Right. Yeah. In the way that, these creatures are so stealthy and they have their natural camouflage, they can hide just about anywhere right in front of you and you won't see them. They're smart. They're really smart.
Yeah. It's kind of like often, the only time you see a deer in the woods is whenever they move, because they blend in with the environment really well.
Right.
An honest hunter will tell you that they only see them when they move. But there's some people that are better at hunting than I ever could be. I've never hunted, but whenever I'm out in the woods, I'm always looking around, seeing what's out there. Just trying to pick up on what kind of wildlife's out there. All signs for different things. Are you familiar with Daryl Adams? He has Al Moon Lab in Oregon.
He has what?
Al Moon Lab in Oregon. He was on the documentary Flash of Beauty. he's a friend of mine, and he has an area in Oregon that me and my parents recently went to, and we didn't see a Bigfoot, but we saw like different kinds of trees, almost like they were making a corral or something out in this area. And he's seen Bigfoot and captured him on camera and everything in this piece of property. But these, it seems like they like to try and kind of set boundaries and stuff in the areas that they frequent. Don't know why. Don't know if it's something where they do it for the young ones to know not to go out to a certain area. Like that's what I think a lot of the structures are. I think they're just kind of like playpens, basically, for the young ones. Don't know, but I think they like to make these boundaries, kind of like how we do, setting up perimeters around little areas that they like to frequent. And this place had been this area that he had been abandoned for a while. It looked like, but I try to look for stuff like that here in Missouri, and I don't see a whole lot of it. And it could just be that I'm going to the wrong places, But yeah, that's what's going on in Missouri.
I don't see. Yeah, I don't see a lot of tree structures. I find little teepees, like little teepees made of sticks about 2 or 3 foot tall.
Mhm.
Or I find saplings bent over and held down by a bigger log.
Yeah,
but
I see that all the time
usually,
over
I
there in
think.
Oklahoma.
Oh, you do? I find them in the bedding areas where they bed down. They'll have it.
Yeah, I've never seen.
That, I don't find.
Yeah, I've never seen a bedding area that they've had, but I've seen weird like little structure things that they've made. There was one specifically that I'd seen recently, probably the last time I was out there at that place I go to, that literally looked like somebody built a primitive shelter. And it could be that a person did it, but it was really, really well done. But it was too small for like a big, 9 foot tall, 6 to 9 foot tall person to build. And a friend of mine who's an investigator said that maybe it was made by little people or something.
Wow. I have a question.
Do you go out in the woods alone? At
Huh?
night? Do you ever go out at night alone?
Yeah, that's usually what I do. I'm usually out there at night alone. I think that lots of times they, they're used to me, at least in that area, so they don't really mess with me a whole lot. So I'm thinking, what can I do to provoke them? And I was thinking maybe I could get a chainsaw and rev up a chainsaw or something, act like I'm cutting down a tree to get them to come out there.
You might get more than a rock thrown at you.
What you should do is bring a bunch of walnuts and nuts and sit down and just start cracking nuts and eating nuts and don't pay attention to anything around you.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah, because they know what walnuts are.
If you ignore them.
I have a quick question.
I find if you would. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Don. You're the one in the gown, hospital gown.
No.
It says Jimmy. I'm
ahead,
sorry, Don. Don, I'm gonna give you.
I don't want to know that.
Yeah, I'll slap you when you get better, buddy. It says, Jimmy, do you also feel that being near waterways are the keys to getting close to them? That's a great question. I do.
Yeah. And it's basically because they like they like to fish. They I think they build little traps, kind of I don't know if you've seen it, where you kind of get rocks and you kind of block off a little area, and then you get fish to come in there and get trapped. I know that this one lady has that has them on her property around here. Says that she's seen where they've done that, where they built a little trap kind of area so that
Wow.
they can get the fish. There's lots of prey that frequent water areas and everything, because deer come down to drink water, all kinds of other critters come down and drink water. They do know that people frequent water too. Not all the waterways, but somebody may leave some lunch or something out there. You never know. And also, there's more vegetation by waterways, so there's more things for them to eat over there.
Concealment.
So yeah, I think waterways. You have to have a waterway nearby an area for it to really be viable.
Well, let me ask you both. What do you think their O factor's like? Because they've got a nostrils or a nose that's like ours, and our O factors are nothing compared to, a dog's. Or, what do you think? Some people think they have a keen sense of smell. What do you think about their O factors?
I think they have a pretty good sense of smell. I got a pretty good sense of smell. And I think theirs is probably more in tune with their environment, to where if they smell something kind of something that doesn't smell like their environment, they pick up on it pretty quick. It's kind of like whenever I go into the woods, lots of times I will smell strong smells of urine sometimes from deer and stuff. And one time I smelled a real strong smell of diesel way out in the middle of the woods. No idea how in the world that got out there, but maybe somebody had taken a four-wheeler or something out there.
We can still see it. You're good.
Let me start my thing
Yeah,
again here.
old. Like if you walk in an old peat bog, there is a chemical smell that comes out of it. I don't know if you guys have peat bogs down there,
A what now?
but I think they're hearing. What? What's that?
Did you say hee haw?
Oh, my battery. Yeah, my battery's at 10%.
Okay. Well,
So
he's at 2%, and Don, throw out some questions before we close. Jimmy, Don, throw out some questions, and I'm gonna let Jimmy pull out there what he wants to. We appreciate you coming on, Don. We really do. You're OG, brother. You're OG.
Good talking to you, Don.
what else was I gonna do? Yeah, good talking to you, Jimmy. I wasn't quite prepared for this. I didn't know I was going to end up in the hospital this week. So,
Well, normally, listen, we actually even prep for this show, and I normally just throw it on Don at the last moment. I'm like, we're having this, and this, and then he winds up in the hospital. Conspiracy. But man, your dedication is beyond.
Yeah, I have an implant malfunction. Yeah.
Did you say something
I have
smart?
an implant malfunction.
10-9, you're coming in stupid.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys. So you can't hear me that well. I'm taking it.
Love you, brother. I appreciate you, Don.
All right, see you guys.
Good talking to you, man.
See you. All
Leave
right,
the nurses
I'll talk to you
alone.
again.
Leave the nurses alone. He's OG, ain't he, buddy?
Yeah, he is. He's a pretty awesome guy.
So I told you when you come on we were scatterbrains, and we bounced whatever off the wall. Is there anything that we did not get to tonight that you wanted to get out there?
Oh God, goodness. Well, let me see here. Uh, I don't know
You,
if y'all know of anybody that would be willing to have me tag along, in the Southwest Missouri area or just the Southern Missouri, Northern Arkansas area on an investigation. I'd be willing to do that. Um, so I'm looking for anybody who's willing to have me come along with them on something. Also, if anybody has any kind of stuff going on at their house, Bigfoot activity or any other kind of activity, I'd be interested in looking into it as long as it's around here.
what's your email?
Also, as far as like um, uh, other cryptids go, I think that's something we'd probably want to touch on a little bit. I have I have kind of like a criteria for like what falls within the realm of being very possibly real, and that is my criteria is basically if people all around the world have reported a thing, if it's pretty much consistent on its description and factors, and if it's been reported for a long time, you know, going back centuries, it's probably a real thing. Like little people, uh, little people, and we're not we're not talking about like Peter Dinklage or anything. We're talking about tribes of people that are about uh, 2 feet to 3 feet tall, and I'd love to come to Alabama, but that's a little far out of my range. But yeah, little people like that live out in the woods. We have modern reports of that happening not too far from where I'm at, as well as going back centuries, maybe even thousands of years, all over the world. Um, there's the Dogman thing, the cephaloid kind of stuff, where they go ahead.
You said modern sightings of the little people. Can we go into what you've heard or what you've been told?
Yes, my friend Brian Terrell, he has he does a lot of interviews with people that have had sightings, and there was a lady that was part of some cryptid groups. I think she was part of a cryptid group that had seen one in southeast Oklahoma. And then there's the ones in Montana that have been seen. There's some of those have been seen recently. Um, and there was somebody I know that lives here in Eureka Springs. Of course, this is Eureka Springs, where it's hippie central and all kinds of weirdness goes on. Lots of drug stuff, but he had seen a little person as well. Um, and it was one of those things where he was just in a really relaxed state and just really taking it easy and real calm and everything. And he saw one come up from out behind a vehicle and then just kind of disappear. Um, I don't know if he was on a substance or not, but he said that he
Now,
had seen one. Um,
what about
but
their
yeah, like,
temperament? Because I've heard
uh-huh.
that they can be pretty. What about their temperament? Because I've heard they can be pretty kind of evil, but I heard they were tricksters or
Yeah,
and
I think
question.
they have I, I think their temperament's similar to Bigfoot's, honestly. I think that they don't want people uh, in their area. They will try to get people out of their area. They'll also steal from them, from what I know. But they'll also, it's just like with most people. There's good people and bad people. With Bigfoot, there's good, well-intentioned Bigfoot, and there's bad-intentioned Bigfoot. I'm sure. I haven't met any yet, But any bad intentioned ones that I know of. And I've heard about them leading people, into the woods, kind of like a will o' the wisp kind of deal, where they lead them to doom. But I've also heard where they lead them out, and where sometimes they're angry and try to scare people out and stuff. But it's just one of those things where I think they have their area and they don't want people messing it up, which I understand that. Now I mentioned will o' the wisp. This is part of my scatterbrain part, and it reminded me of a live stream I did from that area that I usually go to. And I did a Facebook live stream, and I was starting to see fireflies that some were white, some were blue, and some were red. And all these fireflies, they started going down this trail, which is the trail that goes on to an area that's kind of a place I don't like to go a whole lot, mostly because it's very tricky to kind of navigate, because you could break your leg pretty easily in this area, or twist an ankle at least, if you're not careful. But they started going down this area, and it's the same place where I'd heard this rock clacking and rock crunching going on before, and it kept leading me further and further down this area.
Oh,
But
no,
yeah,
no, no,
it
no,
was.
no,
I went to a certain point, and I'm like, I'm turning back around, because I also know there's bears in that area too,
that's
which
called common
is,
sense, sir. That's called
yeah,
common
two big
sense.
old black bears that live in that area, and I'm
Live
like,
to fight
I'm not
another
going any further.
day. Live to fight
But
another day.
huh?
You think they were like little fairies?
I don't know what it was. It was strange. It was like it looked like fireflies, but one was blue, one was red, and I saw a lot of white ones. Now the white ones could be normal fireflies, but fireflies have kind of a greenish yellowish tint to them
Yeah.
usually. It could be that it's just some sort of species of firefly that's not real common, but they kept going in this one area, and and I was like, I'm not gonna go down there. I started to go down there a little bit, but then I was like, you know what? I've heard too many stories about people chasing fireflies into the woods, and bad things happening to them, so I'm not gonna do it. But anyways, yeah, I forgot where I was.
We're getting into Dog Man, and I kept interrupting you.
Yeah, Dog Man. Yeah. Supposedly we have those around here. Um, there's this one guy I know that's a massage therapist, or no, I say massage. He does massages, and there was a couple that came in to his parlor that was, and I'm known as the Bigfoot guy around Eureka Springs. Everybody knows me, and they know that I do Bigfoot investigations, so they're always telling me something that they found out, And so this guy, these people had told him that they saw the weirdest thing, which was this huge wolf that was walking around on its legs, and everything outside this cabin they were living in, they were staying in, and I was like, well, that kind of sounds like a dog man right there, because he wasn't sure, about it, because he's not real familiar with a lot of that stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, and then there's I think Wyatt and uh DA. They've seen dogmen. I think Wyatt's seen dogmen, but a lot of people have seen these things around these areas. I've never seen them. The closest thing to a cryptid that I've seen is just a black panther, and that can't, that's
That's
something that's not really
But
that.
still, seeing the Black Panther's like seeing Bigfoot. Nobody's going to believe you.
Well, around here we do, because we've captured them on trail cams around here, and on actual, cell phone cameras and stuff. So it's a lot easier to believe that those things exist around here. Plus, we have Turpentine Creek, which is where it's a big cat sanctuary down there. And we have Promised Land Zoo, which doesn't have any big cats or anything, but has lots of exotic animals and stuff. It's a little drive-through zoo. So I mean, that's more probable to for somebody to believe there's a big cat out here. Of course, the game wardens and people like that will say, "Oh, there's not anything like that here," but if you kill one, you're in trouble. So
Well, when I worked night shift, we used to get reports of them. They would call the 911 center, like, we're not going to do anything. It's even your yard is its habitat. Just let it move on. But they would call it in. Now, what do you think on Dogman? What are your thoughts on that? I think there's something about Dogman and storms that bring them in, and whether it's easy for them to move around or they feel more comfortable moving around in storms, but there seems to be a common denominator there.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Dogman, other than a few stories I've heard from people. Uh, it's a strange deal because the thing is there's been reports and depictions of these things all over the world. Like the Dogman. It's depicted all over the world. Um, Ancient historians had wrote about tribes of them and everything. There's even a saint that Saint Christopher was allegedly a dog man at one time, and then he had the head of a dog and everything, and was a great warrior, and then came to Christ, and later on had his head changed to a human head. Yeah, I don't know how much of that kind of stuff I believe,
I
because it
think
does
it
seem
was,
pretty far fetched.
yeah, I think with St. Christopher, he was had the Canaanite blood in him, and when they would, uh, so they depicted him with a canine head. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I read a lot, and like most of it, I don't know. So I mean, but
Yeah,
but there's a reason for everything that is kind of ties together. So yeah, I get
yeah.
that.
And it
But
could be
even
a translational kind of thing, because it's like with if you see any ancient or medieval depictions of whales and stuff like that, you see these really weird looking animals, or other things like giraffes or elephants. The ancient medieval people drawing these things, all they know is what they're being told. They come out with some sort of weird looking thing. So it could be that, some of the stuff like with St. Christopher, it could be that they thought uh, Canaanite, canine, maybe he was part dog or something. It could be that. It could be that these things were kind of common, and they came to that conclusion because of other people that had talked about seeing these things, like in India and in other places like that. They've there's been these depictions. Even in the Americas, they've had that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Dogman. All I know is that if I come across them, I'm gonna, pick up a stick and throw it for him. See if it chases it. That's
yeah,
that's that's my solution. If he seems, like he wants to take a bite out of me, is I'm gonna take a stick and throw it. See if he'll chase it.
let me know. Let me know if that works. If not, we'll put Don out there with you. You just trip him really good, and there you go, buddy.
They they
So
they seem kind of evil though. From what I've heard about them, is they seem There's like some sort of evil thing about them. Now, that could just be the mystique of them, but
Yeah, that's
or the fact that
the
yeah,
fear of
or the fact that they have that you know, the look of a dog or something, you know, that can kind of scare people, you know. But you know, because we think of wolves and coyotes, you know, and we know that those are predators and sort of scavengers, you know, but you know, they take down prey, so that kind of gets the our minds to thinking that maybe this, you know, maybe it's evil, you know. It's an instinctual sort of thing almost. If they exist, I mean, there's lots of people that said they've seen them, and I would love to see one. I would love to see a lot of different cryptids.
So looking back on you've had a lifelong fascination with, Bigfoot and, cryptids in general, and you keep an open mind. You're very level-headed about it. No, and that's awesome, by the way. What is the one thing about Bigfoot that if you could tell someone that you don't hear every day, that you have observed or kind of picked up on, what would that be that you don't hear a lot about? A
Well,
characteristic, anything.
you know, one thing that I don't think hardly, well, I don't think anybody's ever seen is nobody's recorded them like a video of them making the sounds they make. You hardly ever hear about them making the sounds they make or building the structures that we attribute to them. That would be interesting for somebody to see that, you know, to see them making a structure. I've heard about them weaving, like the Alma in Russia, those Bigfoot weaving, like weaving, braiding
Yeah.
uh, grass together and horses' tails, and you know, the hairs of horses' tails. And I've heard of that happening. Sorry, my light went out again. I've heard of that happening in the Americas, where they weave horses' tails, the hairs of horses' tails together. And I actually tried an experiment one time where I went to that area I usually go to, and I went deep into the wooded area, and apparently in the wrong kind of part of the wooded area. I should have went to another part, but I had these I had a rope, and then I had strings hanging down from the rope, and I tied it around a tree, and I braided one of the series of strings together, you know, to kind of symbolize, you know, that what I wanted them to do, you know, because allegedly they like to do this kind of thing because I guess they get bored or something. And I also had a picture of myself with a lock of my hair in a Ziploc bag and some peanut butter, a jar of peanut butter
Wow. That's
with a
funny and
little toy
hardcore.
with a little toy car that looked like mine. And and that was such a bad idea because whenever I came back, bears had attacked the whole thing. I should have left the peanut butter out of the whole equation because they had went and they had chewed off, because I had the bag with my picture taped up there, and with some duct tape around that area, and you could tell where something had chewed it off. And you know, they'd taken the jar of peanut butter and the car too. I'd had two black bears in that area actually take and eat a audio recorder I had. And I know it was them because I caught them on camera where they were they had demolished this tree stump that I put all this peanut butter on, because you know, I was thinking, you know, something's gonna, you know, Bigfoot's gonna come over there and scoop some peanut butter or something, you know. And and turned out Bigfoot didn't come by, but the bears sure did. And they were big old black bears too, two of them. But yeah, apparently they don't want to do any kind of interaction that way. Because I was thinking, if I had that string up there, that would be non-invasive. Like I didn't have a camera up there with the string. I was thinking, that would be a non-invasive way to kind of communicate an idea or an intention, with them and have them respond. But if we could have, if somebody could give me some evidence of a Bigfoot doing something other than walking away, or something where they're actually doing these things that we attribute to them, that would be monumental right there.
Um, Tammy actually has her horses. She'll have she's in the chat. She'll have her horses groomed and the mane taut, uh, brushed out when she wakes up the next day, and it's been braided. And she believes it's either fairies or Bigfoot. But I agree with what you say. There's a lot of things that are alleged in the community, and people have great experiences, and they're great storytellers, and they convey their experiences very well through stories. But we have a tendency, and I kind of get blackballed a little bit for saying this, but you know what? It's the truth. There's a lot of theories presented as facts,
Yeah.
and we have to be careful, because unless you see it happen and watch somebody say, well, I see it happen all the time. I sit on my porch and watch them weave baskets. Okay. But there's a lot of people that are great storytellers that have had experiences, and they convey their stories very well, very gripping, that their theories are not facts. And it's a
Yeah.
disservice to the community when we do that, because you have people that will hang on everything they say, and we have a tendency to close our mind and research if someone tells us don't do this or don't do that. I mean, listen to everyone and give them that respect, especially the ones that have been around a while. But thinking outside the box, coloring outside the lines, is where great research comes from.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
And one thing I've noticed with a lot of the interviews with people that have had sightings and stuff is uh, our minds like to fill in the blanks, kind of like with the Mandela effect. That's what I think the Mandela effect is our minds filling in the blanks or trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. It's like with whenever people talk about Bigfoot, they often describe ape-like kind of stuff, with them and everything, because their mind's filling in the blank. Like if somebody says, "Oh, well, he had, his face looked like a gorilla's face," which most of the reports don't have that. Most of them, show him as looking like human. But our minds, like I say, our minds try to fill in the blanks with things whenever it comes to this kind of stuff, because it's something abnormal that we don't quite understand. But one thing I think when dealing with Bigfoot is to keep in mind that, you know, from what we know, they are a type of person. And I think with like this is getting into anatomy a little bit. I'm not gonna be grotesque or vulgar, but like with the chest, you know, human chests have hair all over them. Even female, even women, have have hair all over them. You can't see the hairs, very well because they're like little micro hairs, thin, real thin, small hairs. But with Bigfoot, the hair is longer and has a thicker diameter to it. But it's the same amount of hairs all over their body. and you know, with a longer length than what ours does. And I think that right there, like if you look at the Patterson Gimlin film with Patty, and I know some people think it's fake. I think it's
I don't.
probably real. And you know what? Because that one, Patty had breasts. If she was an ape, she would have bare breasts because apes, female apes, they don't have hair on that part of their body, but humans do. And I think, you know, that is I think with that, you know, that would show more that it is a human than an ape. Um, like I said, I'm scatterbrained, so I get off of topics and stuff.
As
But
yeah, you're allowed to. It's called thinking out loud. So now Tammy said she wanted to send you some pictures of where her horse's hair was braided. I think that'd be something really cool for you to look at. Hey Jeff, um, good to see you, buddy. Do you have an email or do you give your email out or should they go
yeah,
to your okay? Can you give your
yeah,
email out?
yeah. Jimmy's Cryptid Quest at gmail.com.
Easy enough. Easy cheesy. So I think that let's see, I missed Johnny Meetup. Ah, Johnny Meetup. Hey buddy. That's my buddy. He's from North Carolina too. Now you're looking for someone that will let you go out with them in what area?
In southern Missouri or northern Arkansas. Um, you know, somewhere along that border, because that's where I'm living, and it's a you know I want to do more investigating and everything, but it's just the way my vehicle is right now. I can't go on like you know a 70-mile-an-hour highway. You know, I have a blockage in where my catalytic converter is. I'm trying to get that fixed, and I just it's hard for it to. It doesn't have a whole lot of power, you know, in my vehicle right now.
Okay. So if anybody out there knows someone he can pair up with that are good people, let's not put him with somebody that's, put him on a stick and put him over a fire and roast his little goose. But please just let him know. And give him an email at jimmy'scryptidquest@gmail.com. Jimmy, we've been going on for 2 hours. I would love for you to come on and co-host with us one day with Don and I. We, I just really enjoyed the conversation with you. Is there anyone at the end of each show? See, now I'm being scatterbrained too. At the end of each show, I always try to give someone the time to recognize someone that's been an impact to them. It does not have to be in the Bigfoot community. It could be anywhere in your life. Do you have anyone that you would like to pay tribute to?
Let's see here. Honestly, my dad really. He's
Hold
been
on, I'm gonna give you full screen, okay, buddy? Hang
all
on,
right.
cause
Yeah, I'd like to thank my dad. He's been a great help for me with all the investigating, and he's a great man of God, and I really appreciate him and his support. Also, Brian Terrell, who's helped me out a lot with cryptid investigation too. He's a real good man.
that's pretty awesome. I'll tell you, you're a really good fellow. You're really easy to talk to, and I imagine that it would be blessed to call you a friend. And
Thank you.
I welcome you to the Muddy Creek family, and I hope you come back soon. And I would love for you to jump on and co-host with me and Don when Don's not in his uh, hospital gown. Don does the best round tables. I mean, when it comes to the Bigfoot. The two of you can talk all the time. So hopefully when we get, thank you, Tammy. She said awesome show, and Jeff said Ron's an awesome guy, and so are you, Jimmy. But
Thank you.
so when Don gets out of the hospital, maybe you can jump back on and you and him can just have at it. And I think you'll enjoy the conversation. And I
I'm
think
sure I would. I'm
you'll
sure I
enjoy
would.
it too. He
Yeah,
thought enough of you.
I got to talk to him on the phone several days ago, and pretty awesome guy. I really enjoyed talking to him.
I was about to say that he didn't jump on for me tonight. He jumped on for you. Don't let him fool you. But I told him if he didn't, I was going to slap him around some more. Yeah, just joking. Don's my friend. I think the world of him, and I'm grateful for the time that he gives the show. And you guys check Jimmy out on he's on TikTok and on YouTube. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. My, I just have a personal Facebook pretty much.
Okay.
Oops, my light went out again.
All right. Well, you guys check him out. You've got some really good audio. That please just go find them and listen to that audio. And like I said, I hope to have you back. And I really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Jimmy. You take care. Bye bye.
You too. Thank you.